Really? Really? Is this what we're doing? All right. William Lane Craig. All right, let's do this. Come on, Billy. You ready? You guys ready for Billy? All right, let's do this, Billy.
So, Adam may have looked very much like us. Here is an artist's recreation of Heidelberg Man.
Okay, let's look at the ape man real quick. Heidelberg Man, okay. So let me get this straight. Adam, God's creation, which is good, created in the image of God, access to metaphysics, access to language, access, our bodies made for the function, consistent with our ontology, consistent with our purpose. God created man with intent, not accidentally, not like, put this little blobby creature on the table, see what happens. No. God creates man, it's intentional. It's not a Tamagotchi. So this is William Lane Craig's account of Adam, ape-like, probably low IQ. If you're going to take this evolutionary view, you're going to have to adopt a progressive intellect, which he later says in this video that gets produced or whatever, or whatnot, or what is he saying? That's what he already contradicts himself. He's saying like this is Adam, but then you're like, he later says that Adam gets developed. Which one is it? Okay, so Heidelberg Man, looking like an ape. Okay, so you already have a problem. Okay, because if God creates man in his image and Adam in his image, and he's the first man, and there's intent, and there is status, and there's even deontology, there's a conceptual realm that is accessible, being that there is some type of communication of what you're here for, of what to do, of what not to do, right? How are you going to basically argue Adam is some sort of like nominal caveman if that nominal caveman needs some higher level communication?
Man, Adam then may be plausibly
It's super insulting.
Identified as a member of Homo heidelbergensis, living perhaps sometime earlier than 750,000 years ago. He could even have lived in the Near East, in the biblical site of the Garden of Eden, though vastly earlier, of course. His descendants migrated southward into Africa, where they gave rise to Homo sapiens, and westward into Europe, where they evolved into Homo antecessor.
What a confused man. Hey, listen, William Lane Craig, you're saying in real time that humanity is in flux. That's not a universal category. Do you understand, William Lane Craig? You don't, do you? Little bit lost. What have you been doing? You going into like, what do you've been watching Cirque du Soleil, on Broadway or something? Snap out of it, kiddo. If man made in God's image from the start has to evolve and change, and you have all these splintering effects from the previous version, you don't have a static universal humanity, dude.
Neanderthals and Denisovans. Eventually, these separate lines of his descendants began to interbreed, leaving their genetic signatures in our DNA.
Meaning that Christ himself took on the humanity, which is a descendant of a beast. Beast. How does he not get this? I mean, look at him. What is wrong with this guy? interbreeding. So humanity comes from a previous thing that's not quite human, that's kind of like a beast-like thing, that then interbreeds and pushes forth something that's not beast-like, but still comes from a beast. And then you're arguing, William Lane Craig, that the Logos incarnate comes to this world to take on the nature of a beast derivative. You sick, sick man.
Paleoanthropologists debate whether modern man emerged through a gradual multi-species development or by a sudden mutational event occurring within a single species. Francesco Derrico and Chris Stringer explain, and I quote, "Some authors consider that a genetic mutation in the functioning of the brain is the most probable prime mover, and have argued..."
To say look, the authors that say maybe it's a genetic mutation in the functioning of the brain is the most probable prime mover. What? Hello, you need to first tell me how a set of genetic mutations could produce a brain to begin with. You notice what is with this picture? Why is this guy taking a photo like this? Who takes a photo like that? Who does that pose other than a fifth grader when they win an award at school for being a good reader? He just grants himself a brain. Okay, so the brain's there after many evolutionary years of genetic mutation, accidentally emerging, and then notice how they arbitrarily go, okay, so we got this brain totally made by genetic mutation, but the metaphysical supernatural prime mover comes in when there's a mutation. It's like a whole slew of mutations were not special and supernatural, but God used a specific mutation in the future to like activate the brain or something, turn it on like a light switch. It's like a light switch theory.
That such a mutation leading to a sudden diffusion of modern traits must have occurred approximately 50,000 years ago among African anatomically modern humans. Others assume this neurological switch between 60 and 80,000 years ago and associated with a cultural innovation recorded at this time in southern Africa.
See, this is another problem with his view. If you end up arguing classical foundationalism, you're going to eventually pervert your own theology and adopt some sort of naturalistic assumptions. The assumptions, aside from, the obvious, evolution itself, you notice how he read anatomic, he mentioned anatomy, right? African, anatomically modern. That means, from his view, there is such a thing called a human that doesn't share the same anatomy as we do now. This is a problem because from the Christian view, our anatomy is proper to our nature. Our anatomy is proper to our function and our purpose. You can't separate it. I don't know if people are new here, but I recommend you rewatching my debate with Redeemed Zoomer, Richard, who said, no, the thing that makes us human is merely the image bearer status. It's something like a spark, and the body is just a feature. And I go, okay, so if that's true, could a donkey be a human? Can a donkey host human nature? You see, they separate parts of the triadic human: body, mind, spirit, body, mind, soul, however you want to say it. These are together. This is what makes us a human from a Christian view. You really can't argue from a Christian view that what makes us human are these three things, but then partially take an evolutionary view, which then takes the anatomical, the biological aspect, and goes, well, that's not actually human. That's something else. That's not it. Well, no. If part of being Christian is how you be a Christian in the world, which is participation in the sacraments, receiving of the Eucharist, humility, prayer, fasting, and all of the rest, right? All of these things that we're called to do in our holy tradition is compatible and perfectly suited for our bodies, or I should say our bodies are suited for those purposes. Our voice to sing, to speak, to debate, to teach. Our hands to work, to sweat, to make things, to make beauty in the world, to write, to document, to defend, to aggress. They want to separate that out as if, oh no, that's actually not really a part of being human. That's like just an accidental naturalistic feature. Well, the problem with this is if you take an evolutionary view, there's only two options, right? What we know is a human being now, according to their model, is still in a direction toward change. And so that means the humans we see as we see them today will die out, and there'll be a new kind of human that's not exactly like that. Now, if that's true, the term humanity splinters into nominalism. It's no longer a universal. And if that's the case, let's say it takes 1,000,000 years from their view for Christ to return to judge the living and the dead. Well, under their view, also a topic that came up with Redeem Zoomer, I do recommend watching that debate, is that it's logically possible for Christ to come back and not recognize himself in these humans. I call it platypus liturgy. That a bunch of animals not shaped like us, not sounding like us, not smelling like us, not mating like us, and the rest, are somehow called to carry forth the tradition, hold steadfast to these traditions, both written and spoken? What do you mean? How do I do that with these claws? How do I do that? How do I make the sign of the cross with these claws? Whoops. I had a animalistic outburst at church today. What'd you do? Well, I ate one of the parishioners. Oh, it's okay. God forgives you and I forgive you. Thanks so much. I can't wait till forgiveness vespers. Let's move along before I get too angry.
One can imagine a scenario in which a regulatory mutation, perhaps divinely caused, occurs in a member or members of a population belonging to Homo heidelbergensis, which effects a change in the functioning of the brain that results in significantly greater cognitive capacity.
Stop here. What is he doing? He's reducing image bearer status to mere cognitive capacity. Sorry, William Lane Craig, but there are plenty of people, you might be one of them, that has very limited cognitive capacity. In fact, those human beings also made in God's image, when they are born with these defects, an effect of the fall, by the way, not an effect of God's failure to bless them with some sort of like functioning spirit juice. We're called into action to help these people because they're made in God's image. So they take this, it's like a vegan argument. It's like, oh, well, humans have this high capacity. It's their functionality of their brain, and I attribute moral value and worth to them because of their smartness. This is like the Mormon theosis, which is like advancing your intellect purely, your ability to rationalize and reason through things, your mental brain capacity, your CPU, your RAM. It's like a computing system. He's trying to sell you that this genetic change that God may have done, because God needs genetic changes, of course, to endow you with his image, bear image status, right? God's all, oh, I want to make man in my image, but I can't figure out a way how to do it mechanically. And so what if I take a genetic mutation that's supposed to be random and make the effect of intellect that is given to us so we know God? What if we make intellect one of the transcendental things that make us human? What if I make that a feature of a malfunction? That makes sense. Yeah, let's make the thing that makes us made in God's image a function of the fall itself. From this view, the product of long evolution and errors in our genetic makeup. That it's an error, it's a malfunction in nature that produces our conceptual, philosophical capabilities.
Some behavioral outworkings of this increased cognitive capacity would be immediate, but others would emerge slowly over time among this person's descendants.
Racist.
Through gene-cultural co-evolution. This is in line with the cultural model. We are to imagine both Neanderthals and Homo sapiens as heirs to the cognitive capacity for modern behaviors already present in Heidelberg man. And in line with the first model, this increased capacity as itself the result of a crucial mutation in some ancestral individual belonging to Homo heidelbergensis. These individuals could have been Adam and Eve. Their descendants multiplied and then became the human race.
See that? The human race, humanity, is a product of something. It's not created in God's image. It's not created from God. It's on, here is humanity delivered. And through humanity, through Adam, sin and death come into the world. Well, how could a beast sin? There's no sinning. Like, a beast does what a beast does. So now he arbitrarily develops a period of time where you suddenly become human, and now the human race exists. But William Lane Craig, does evolution stop now? Yes. God arbitrarily stops evolution. That's what Redeem Zoomer had to say. I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? If evolution is true, not only do you not have a static universality of human, what a human is, because it's always in flux changing, just temporary nominal status, right? That's always, by the way, you don't even have a group. You have individuals that look kind of like other individuals and they share functions, but there's no universal. And once that's dead and it splinters off to something else, it continues away from what he calls, now we have the human race. No, you don't. You don't even have that from this evolutionary view. You have nominalism. Epic fail. Is that what Redeem Zoomer believes? Oh, yeah. Redeem Zoomer argued that Adam is the byproduct. He's the product of beast. He's saying that there's a group of, just like he's saying, William Lane Craig, there's a group of human-like creatures that eventually procreate, and something deviates from that. Redeem Zoomer in my debate called that Adam. He said Adam's Adam's the product of not human, right? Adam came from a non-human, right? He had to say, yeah. Something human-like, he said. Okay, if it's human-like, but it's not human. Adam's father is a beast, right? Redeem Zoomer? Yeah, Adam's father's a beast. Could Adam have enslaved or turned his father into some sort of animal husbandry to till the land? Yeah, I don't see why not. Could Adam's father been a beast who, participated in like homosexuality and other weird stuff that animals do without any judgment? Yeah. Does Adam respect and look up to his father as a version of him? No. Does Adam's father reflect the Christian hierarchy of father and son? No. Okay. So Adam's the product of a beast. He's a synthesis of a beast. Yes. So Christ took on human nature that came forth from Adam? Yes. So Christ took on a pseudo-beast nature? Blasphemy. But it's worse because, like I said, the theosis, the teleology, the higher purpose of Christianity in practice, in thought, in mind, in spirit, is peculiar to our universal status as humans, what we are, what we look like, how we do things, how we move, how our hands work, how our minds work, how our eyes work, how we sing, how we pray, how we cry, how we mourn, how we celebrate, joy, sorrow, all of it. All wrapped up in a triadic, also reflective of our triune God, a triadic category. We are that. We are all three of these things together. And they're trying to separate them out. Well, if you separate the body from the mind and the spirit, from a Christian view, the body can then go off and do things. You know, oh, my body, my animal nature body sinned today. Oh, don't worry, it wasn't you. It wasn't you. Sound familiar? Oh, my dirty, disgusting body. Hey, I don't know how it did it. It accidentally bought a ticket to Vegas, and apparently, I bought 5 prostitutes, and I've been doing coke for a week straight. I woke up yesterday in my own bed, though, and I was like, you stupid body. How could you do that to me? How did you do this to me? Ugh. It's like split personality disorder. It's like you split your body into its own intent, and then you have your own intent. And when you do something that would otherwise be sin, it wasn't you. It was just your natural body doing its thing that it does. You know what I mean? Just ran off for the weekend. It is. It sounds Gnostic. Yeah, it's so broken. I mean, William Lane Craig's theology alone is so broken. But when he tries to argue for evolution, it gets even further twisted, if you could imagine that's possible. From their view, they'd have to bite the bullet. The future of humanity, if you push it further enough in the timeline, they have to say that Christ could actually return to judge the living and the dead, and the living...
My body did some terribly gay stuff yesterday. Really ticks me off when it does that.
Stupid gay body.
Jimbob Thornton. God is just a beast. They evolved to a form that is humanity actualized. Mormon evolutionist.
It is very similar in a kind of way, yeah. So, from their view, they would have to bite the bullet and be consistent, like Redeem Zoomer was. Is it possible, sir, in this case, William Lane Craig, sir, please address this when you see this video. Isn't it possible that if it takes another 1,000,000 years, let's say, for Christ to return to judge the living and the dead, isn't it possible that the living are unrecognizable beasts? Not shaped like us, not moving like us, not eating like us? Are those beasts still called to fulfill their Christian obligation? Now, it's weird that William Lane Craig, a lot of his career was spent, I would say, even adequately arguing for Christian deontology, that if moral duties and obligations exist, God exists. If God doesn't exist, there are no moral duties and obligations. That's a great rigid approach against the atheist. However, it's bizarre that he argued this so well. He argued it really well against people. Duties and obligations. Well, isn't it strange that from his view, there has to be a beast that humans come from and a beast that humans are going toward, if evolution is true, that can't possibly fulfill on the duties and obligations of Christianity. They can't hold the host to give it to the parishioners. They're too hunched over to chant the hymns. What does a homily sound like in this world? Ah, Lord have mercy. Where are these animals grouped in the woods eating, I don't even know, celluloid leaves and reciting the Nicene Creed? How? What are we talking about, William Lane Craig? What are you doing? Crab liturgy. Donkey marriage. So I hope you guys understand the consequence of this position. He doesn't. So many Christians don't. So many.